Are you watching a first complete season of Tensei Shitara Ken Deshita? So leave a like to support the project and let's just go. The anime starts with Amon being run over and the driver gears up so he doesn't have to be left idiot, and then he is transported to the non-driver RPG world, in this case the guy who was run over there, you know, where there are several colored moons in the sky, and the boy wakes up and sees himself like a sword stuck in a stone, and the god of that world turns to him and says good luck and puts his foot in, and that's it man. And he discovers that he has several abilities, such as high regeneration and telekinesis. The goblins even try to use him there, but he says he doesn't even know that a goblin is going to wield me. He already cosplays as a fishmonger there and ends up with all the goblins. It's on. Then he discovers that when to deal with the goblins his skills increased and he evolved. Then he also discovers that he gained points that he can distribute within the respective skills that he acquires. Look how brave. And he decides to become stronger and collect more skills for its future bearer, being a very brave man, you know, and that is your new goal as a sword. Not far away, a girl with dark hair and cat ears looking at the sky dreaming of her freedom because she is a slave. She wants more power to going against the tyranny of those overseers who chain together with his people is a bad thing. Soon after our own sword becomes an adventure killing monsters and taking their respective skills and increasing. I think he ended up acquiring in the meantime, whining about not having a bearer, and all he wanted was to be praised by someone, and he followed the goblins there to their lair there and finished off all the defenseless monsters that were there without meme. He literally waited for the goblins to come home and went there, and it ended up with everyone being smaller like that. Wow man. The psychopathic sword my brother. He even gains an ability that he will handle the light instantly and use his abilities. He also ends up sharing it with someone, you know. Meanwhile, the little girl tries to save a slave there from being hurt and humiliated there by the needs again, and her hatred only grows. She was even going to attack the foreman, but they have a collar that goes around the slave's neck that makes them obey, otherwise they will receive an intense pain, and if it weren't for that, those idiots there had already been sitting on the capiroto's lap for a long time. Not far from there, the sand sword had already ventured throughout the area, obtaining almost all types of skills different from the monsters, including the bosses from the strongest area farthest away from there that he could see, and literally alone, like the guy has unstoppable, literally a real walking evolution, and that's how he gained Abito's magic, that he basically sucks there into a dimension and can then remove from that dimension that he sucked in, and together with instant regeneration he won. Then he went to the turtle shit and learned how to use earth manipulation, the famous Mokuton, and defeated him right after. He also won a cool feline. He literally wiped out all the rank 5 bosses, which would be the most powerful rank he could see there, which is as far as he could go bro, and he decided to venture out beyond what he could see, but when resting he gets stuck there on the ground, and basically there that area cancels all the skills he has at the moment. He has contact with the ground and drains all his banana, so there were no monsters around him, and he was so upset there on the floor screaming, waiting for someone who even went wrong a month, and he began to despair and started shouting that he knew how to cook, and even used a good part of his points to evolve his cooking skills to the maximum level, which was level 10 man. A lot of reviews. He was moral. He still had a skill that considerably increases the abilities of the wielder, in this case the attributes, and keep shouting and it starts to rain, and I am the best sword in the world is what saves me man. I knew he is a sword. He wanted someone to wield it, and it stays their prisoner. Okay, connected. Not far from there the little black girl and everyone around are attacked by a two-headed bear, and the foreman brush the way they are made all the slaves still, while the monster is attacking everyone and they are running away. See if you can, and not the bear started beating everyone there while the foreman ran away. But my friend's karma is something that comes and goes, and nothing happened. The bear threw a slave at the foreman who was controlling the others, and it just went away. Based on the moment he went to base his order was cancelled and the slaves were able to move there. You know, all the slaves run away, but the little girl is tired of running away. She takes a stick and goes after the bear with everything she had, and clearly she is threatened away. Right, the band doesn't have much to do, and while she thought she wanted to be stronger, she managed to hear Sword Sam's voice, and they finally met after a very comical conversation between them. They're saying that she was surprised for him talk, and he all the team there because she was cute and such. She can wield it, and we see that her status is very weak. However, this is not a problem for Sword San, who has spent the last few years improving herself to the maximum, and she goes after the bear beast. She says she feels like she's a warrior who killed several dead people, and that's really what happened, because Sword Sam's skill means she has the battle experiences that Sword Santa had, and the bear doesn't stand a chance. Man, she literally does a blow. Very angry there right on the bear, and the bear goes to base, but at the same moment one of the foremen appears. He was about to steal the sword there and continues to give orders to her because of the collar is connected. He could too, and shows the contract and talks, while I have this you won't be able to do anything. The Saba sword. Look, use your power of telekinesis to break the guy's neck and send him to Capiroto's lap. Burns quickly with the fire magic there the contract and flies there. The little girl is free in morals. I made a big mistake when I saw this man. She does caress a Sword Sam and thanks him and the entire iPad team for her to just be a moral bearer, and she says that it would be an honor that she will become stronger, and reveals to Sword Sam and that no person of her race, which is black cats, has managed to evolve, and her goal is to change that by by honoring the wishes of her parents who never managed to evolve the standards. He adds to her goal and says he will train her and make her evolve, and he helps her receive a name that is Fran, and she help him receive a name that is Master because he said he would. Training would help you become strong. Then for her he is her master, and after that there is a very cute scene of her sleeping, hugging him in the carriage and him taking care of her and saying that he won't let anyone get close there in Baladeo, looking at everyone very cute, and their scene is their definition that goes beyond the romantic love we know. Then a brief explanation there that the race of beasts can evolve as they go to their extreme and that they are proud of this. However, the black cats were unable to evolve, including Fran's parents who tried far beyond what they could, and they literally went from base, leaving France alone. Look at the responsibility, just a little girl, man. The guys literally only thought about them, see if you can. But everything worked out because Fran is now being taken care of. So, through Sword Sam, he's sending a lot of goblins over there, and he also learned water magic quickly. According to Sword Sam, she learns very quickly, but her greatest attribute is that she's affectionate. Needy San, yes, there's a goblin ambush there against some travelers. But Fran quickly finishes the general and saves the adventurers around there, and the sword is already send the chat via telepathy. Just talk to me, I'll only talk to you via telepathy, no one can know what I'm talking to. You won't be a problem, and she agrees with him. After that she does there. The escort of the old noble and the guard there didn't look much like this 9-year-old old man. He looks like a cheater. He left him there for the goblins. Everything was fine, but to do what? Right, and we discovered that because of the rank 5 bosses that the goblins mysteriously disappeared there. They are attacking adjacent areas, and the sword is already heavy in consistency. Because he was the one who passed the fishmonger to the bosses there, and now the goblins are attacking the adventurers. Oh, the guard is a good guy. He explains everything about the rankings of adventurers and monsters to Fran, and it's not much different. S is the strongest and G is the weakest between the two. While that old man there doesn't like Fran's race, and for once he's being grateful, he's there mumbling bro neck. Then we see Bangs there making the snoring along with the sword. Sam just watching generally there. If he goes soft to soft there on top of Fran, a kid is thirsty for blood, son. He just wants to see someone touch Fran, and the guard there guides Fran when she wakes up to look for a guild and join the rankings there with the adventurers, because this way she will earn more money and missions. And already in the city, Espada-san talks about how he had several powerful weapons that they had around him and that he is not as strong as he imagined. He starts to get depressed, but to a bad anima he knows that if the others break they are gone, but he is a single weapon that can kind of get stronger and stronger as he gains experience. What he is worth is not the attack ability without the evolution ability. The guy killed where the little monster right from the start. He wants to be the biggest verbal of all. Calm down, my partner is Peak Rock Lee. And they go to the guild, and the receptionist tries to explain to the fan that it's a bit of a dangerous path to become an adventurer, but to say it's fine she takes her to the guild test there. Alessa, which is the name of the guild, and the evaluator is a great Oni. He is a demon, but Fran looks and again says that he has a good sword and prepare for a fierce battle against the Oni. And he doesn't. If you had at any time it was based solely on dodges. While Espada-san tries to reduce enemy attacks as much as possible with his experience, but it got to the point where they had no other option than to go on the attack. So Espada-san uses a slap on Fran, and she goes after him with everything and can still land a good cut on him, but his regeneration is very high, so they had to combine Sam's sword magic and offensive attacks from the sword art that Fran learned to use to counter the enemy, and there was no other swordsmanship or arrest with a Mokuton there, and still launches fire magic to make the guy smart until Fran goes all out in a combination of magic and sword and sends the guy away, and the receptionist stands there surprised and wonders what happened there, and the evaluator gives a thumbs up saying that she passed, and look how he is not in good spirits. After that they are taken to the guild master, who asks where all of Fran's power comes from, and she says that it is a secret guided by the sword, as there may be enemies with bad intentions and this could reveal their weaknesses. The guild master decided to use a advanced evaluation magic. However, Espadacen is angry and activates the anti-evaluation skill. For a long time the guy is literally Batman with preparation. Do what she asks. If she doesn't tell her secret she won't be accepted, and the guild master says she will to be accepted like this because she didn't feel any malice coming from her, and she knows that for her she is hiding her power in secret. She must have good intentions, and the guy also says that nothing more than an elf can use the spirits to discover this work. After this they will register the Fran there, and she will choose her class, and thanks to Zay tributes from the sword dancing shared, she is literally compatible with all existing classes. General, she's like __ bro, and she ends up choosing swordsman mage because she liked it there. That's basically what she's doing now, and she sells the monster materials there to the guild at the request of the spa for her skin to raise a little money, man, but for now only there from the lower class. He even so as not to draw too much attention, but it still surprises everyone. We already hit there a little envious of the other adventurers who were seeing everything. After that nutritionist reveals that his name is Ring and stays there friends with Fran. The mercenary adventurers around try to stop the little girl, and she ignores the sword's request Sam, but the guys insist and are asking to go to base, and again the guys discriminate against her for being a black cat, and Espada-san understands what she's been through in this world all this time but doesn't show up to defend her. her and says that they are the ones vermin and who didn't know how to deliver the item correctly and to Fran received the gold legally and the guys simply decided to steal the gold and, on top of that, attack her. But Fran decides that he has already given up and was going to pull out his sword, but he says it's better not to, and the guys continue there, insulting him, and out of nowhere, the leader's legs there of the mercenaries suckers there it is cut, and no one understands anything. It wasn't a sword in the series because what happened in Fran actually used the skills she learned there with a sword Sam, with magic and intensifying a telekinesis attack there without having to draw the sword. The others try to get at her but she again uses the skills there to increase her skill, now in body combat and gets everyone involved mercilessly. We can see that she has already evolved a lot. Even the pieces congratulate them there because she mastered the skills quickly, and the idiots there will have to pay a fine of 100,000 gold there for moral damages, and they will not go anywhere nor will they be cured until they pay anything fairer than break sword San already decide there never to be against the ring and leaving the guild there to do your shopping and shovel. But they didn't know that there was a dwarf there watching them and they couldn't escape his assessment because he has the vision of God. It's a very angry assessment and she sees that the sword is the intelligent sword with several skills and ends up discovering the secret, but in reality the dwarf with the vision of God is a great man there who is already going after them and knows incidentally there they were going after armor to increase their defense. He invites them to his shop, a sword San. See that he has the style of a legendary blacksmith and see there, but with be very careful, you know, because you never know. And when they are there on the path there were some adventurers there mumbling about the black cat race. There the blacksmith tells him to relax, that they are a bunch of idiots who wanted to resell more of him. They're a bunch of idiots who pure envy and for him to follow. Apparently he doesn't sell to just anyone but he was impressed by her in the guild and says he only sells to worthy adventurers. Idiots there at the guild were a bunch of idiots and saw that she was worthy and she passed the test and she stays super cute there with the new armor, and the armor has basically resistance against all types of magic, and he sells some mega legendary items there for a bargain for her and reveals that in fact these items were ordered for someone who didn't return from one more die. #sad and #fandasword. And Fran asks to see some swords there and the old man turns and says wait a minute, but that sword of yours has mega intelligence Baladeo. I'm not present at that, my daughter. And then Fringe pulls sword San back, now stays in defensive mode, but blacksmith reveals, which is just a curiosity, and smiles at Fran. And Espada Sam says that he sees that he is not a good person. He goes there and he himself exchanges ideas with blacksmith. Espada San thought that his attributes were weak and the blacksmith reveals that if he is focused only on attacks, yes, but his issue is something else. He has stronger swords. But not everything is attack. Him teaches how to imbue mana there in the sword Sam, in this case the little girl, and the sword's attack increases drastically in his state, and he says that he is superior to many swords due to their high mana conductivity. The more mana you put in, the greater the multiplication of your attack. The sword already gets emotional there. The more Fran turns to him and says that she already knew he was incredible from the beginning, and then the guy gets even more emotional again. It's very comfortable how cute they two are, and the previous translation was kind of wrong. It wasn't a master but a teacher. The name she gave him is connected, but in reality it can't be interpreted fixedly like this. It can be understood in many ways, but basically it's a sensei variable. It's on. After that the blacksmith explains that it may have been created by a divine blacksmith who has only been confirmed at this level to date, and in this case these irons are already at a level far above it. It's on and the sword is already. He takes out the remaining monsters, but now they're high ranked and he can make a sheath, and he says he could even make armor with it, but they say they couldn't afford it, and he says it's okay, I'll get these fancy items and I make the armor and make the sheath. The rest leave it to him and then say calmly it's good for them and for him, and that he would earn a lot and it would be good for him and for them too because they don't pay and he gets such rare material. And then general, it's cool. He says that in 3 days he will deliver the scabbard. In a month he will deliver Fran's armor before they leave for adventure. After that they go looking for supplements and kitchen utensils, and they enter a store owned by a retired adventurer who treats the super good fan at last. Right guys, for the love of God, right? And there they get items to make the craziest food. That's what matters. After that they go there to an inn to get a Ronco, use a guild card there with an identity, and it's very useful. You're connected to this world. After suffering you're super happy there with the room, and you say you've never had something so comfortable. When you lie down on the bed you'll stay there reflecting on the life she had before all that stuff there, and say that you'll take care of him, protect her until she can evolve, and she's immensely happy and thanks you. He's very cute, man. After that he finally uses his ability to cook level 10 and make a feast for Fran. That's right my friends, it's great balanced wisdom. The guy was a visionary back then when he evolved his skill at level 10. It's been very useful. Then they decide that they can use the evolution points there of Espadacin to do some strategies. The first one achieves instantaneous mana recovery, and on Monday he literally falls out of his dreams to dance with her there. The next day Espadacin and Fran do some boring quests that every player has what to do. You guys are connected, right? And I don't have much to do because, despite being skilled, everyone has to go through these missions to move up in rank. They are ranked G now to hear the sounds of battle and see what it was like. Adventurers were ambushed by Goblin and to use fire magic, and tells Espada San that it's on fire and he says yes. They all burned in hell. She no, the forest is on fire. The guy gets desperate there and quickly goes out in morale. Very comical this here. So there for the Mokutan there in the goblins, as long as you don't use the art of the sword and after several jumps and attacks France you level up and feel stronger. Good, it's very good, and after giving it a general finish you still go to the adventurers and use it. It heals without a doubt the sword de San. Together with her they became mega powerful because adventurers are grateful, and is surprised when Fran says who starts on ice like them even though she has very high ranking magic, and they explain to her there about the goblins evolved into a threat from the King Goblin Queen Goblin that could bring much more powerful beings there from the global kingdom, and they return to the guild when Fran takes care of the snake reinforcements that arrived there after taking care of some goblins. And I'm already tired of saying goblin bro, difficult word for a more outfit, 2 light ones, and now she is level 6 and it doesn't stop there. She and the sword are still combining skills and sword art, and now Fran is level 8, but the goblins keep arriving and the goblin leader arrives and makes an ambush there against the Fran, but Espadacin can do it, protecting her with his magic, but she is then hit by an arrow and he tells her to retreat, but she says she will never run away to dance. She doesn't realize that Fran is no longer a weak little girl and she doesn't want to rely on false strength. She wants to be really strong. After she says that she wants to get all her abilities, and for that she will have to become strong and beyond her limits, and asks him to support her. At that moment the sword stopped protecting her and started thinking about how he could help there and beyond its limit. Together with its objectives together they defeat the entire order of goblins that were there ambushing them, and now Fran managed to make her become level 12, after which they return and ask the blacksmith to repair armor, and he is surprised when swords are revealed that they defeated without works. After that we go back to when Fran found the goblin's nest there, and the sword San guides her to retreat, absorb the crystals from the monsters around, and then yes, they return stronger. But during a group of adventurers she finds Fran and in reality that gang from before they returned with more strong adventurers, and the leader of the group where they lived reveals that Fringe must be in his ranking due to their high skills there that he ended up identifying, and the leader there instructs Fran to go back and talk to the guild leader while they were watching Juninho, who actually reveals that he is a dumber one who appears out of nowhere. Even after reporting the information to the guild leader he understood that evolved goblins took over the nest of the common goblins, and that is why they did not retreat in battle, and they ambushed them there at the moment that Fran started to attack, and he decides to organize an expedition to exterminate all these goblins, and he raises Fran's level there from G to F ranking due to her high performance there alone defeating those goblins. Without it complete the necessary mission levels, as there is a long journey of stages until you can climb the rankings. After that the blacksmith repairs the armor there and reveals that most deaths are caused by the god of chaos and those around him. Core they gain power, evolve and create labyrinths between animals die, however there are also treasures in it for those who venture and manage to complete it, and the blacksmith says that tomorrow the sword will be ready before Fran's sunny sword share. After that return to Inn and Fran are you mentally from battle. Espadacin go there and caress your doppelganger skill, which is like a materialization of his true self from the other world, and tells her to rest as she has already tried too hard today. After this Fran takes Espadacin to a bathroom to clean him and clean himself up. This scene here, man, I'm not even going to comment on anything about it. You know the wrong thing, bro. I'm not even going to comment on anything there. He finds her and her friends who invite her to schedule after the bath. After that, right? I reveal that there are knights who are stronger than adventurers, but they protect and are under orders from a work there in the region. So what a hell of a 9 __, and he refuses to help the adventurers because he thinks he is superior. Is stupid. Come on, let's come and face it. He's only going to move a finger when shit gets to him. She tells about an A-rank adventurer who resides in a guild and who is now on a mission analyzing the monster bosses that mysteriously disappeared again with the consciousness of the sword, and they will have to go to but die with adventurers that they have right there, including, and wish her good luck. Then she talks about the 10 gods that exist in that world who created everything, and after them there was the ramification of more 78 gods who gave color to the world, created many things, and finally the goddess of chaos, who is one of the main beings who created the most dying and energy of chaos so that the world would not fall into stagnation and that they could always develop with those who they would progress to protect the world until the god of war. And I'm not talking about Kratos. He went to the side of evil due to his greed and the guy went crazy. They're called the 9 to X1, and obviously everyone is fighting for him, and they divided beyond the parties of his body in different corners of the world and sealed there. However, not all parts managed to be sealed 100%, and this is how goblins, orcs and monsters in general were created there, which were born with this energy of war. Then Fran was very tired and she fell asleep right there in the chair. Then we see her in the room there resting. She posted exhausted and Espada leaves taking care of it. Soon after they go to see the blacksmith and he gives them the scabbard of the sword San, who is very happy and willing, which is the most important thing. She can comfortable, and the blacksmith even added a mechanism that allows the sword to author a difficult word without help from Fran using telekinesis, and wishes them good luck. Then we jump to the strategic meeting in which the Omni Guild evaluator that we saw before is organizing there and talks about the objective of killing the Goblin King and Queen to prevent a great disorder that is to come and destroy the world. I thought it was a bit forced, but it's okay. He believes in that, and his biggest objective is also to destroy the Master of the Dead and claim her, but they are interrupted by a goblin attack that already sends many adventurers, noobs from the base, poor extras. They don't have a day of rest in France to the entrance of the lair while trying to help everyone. But the goblins, when they see her, they see a demon because she has the title of Goblin Slayer, and what a tiny and deadly face they are. So swords there guide her to attract the goblins to the beginning of the lair so that he can absorb the crystals without attracting the attention of the guild there, as she already does with the predictions, and begins to jump by kicking in the air with a skill that the sword got from one of the bosses. Initial monsters were very angry at this scene, and it was already amended with fire magic, and then he was very angry, and the supersonic magic when he reached the ground already sent the base general no, don't even give it a chance son, and the clowns already take advantage of the fact that the goblins have gathered at the entrance and use your advanced fire magic to send general sleeping on the Capiroto's lap. Are you kidding, Fran? Go in but die while the others take care of the goblin. Sam's sword plan is let her stay with all glory out as not even __ is stronger there, so it's not fair that the others stay, but in the meantime he never heard the master gives more die, invokes a very powerful being. After that Fran and Espada of this advance, killing only the goblins there that have useful skills for them, and sends their bodies to another dimension so as not to attract too much attention in the guild, leaving others there as extras and such. And after a huge combination of evaluation and a lot of care, they manage to acquire all the crystals they wanted, and only the ones left were weak goblins there that they leave for the adventurers. And now you know, right bro? Goblin barbecue on the skewer for yesterday's sword launched an advanced fire magic and general goes from base. Then they advance to the next floor. There they find evolved goblins and threaten the goblins, felt that they were making them run away, and they obviously let them take him to the Goblin King. And then we see adventurers who finally arrive there at the beginning of the dumbest ending there, the remaining goblins that she left behind with Sword Sam, and they realized what they left behind there, and they are surprised by her strength, but they hurry because she is just a little girl and she could get into trouble if she lets her guard down in a battle, and there is no other. Fran and Sword Sam only finds a Goblin King and Queen surrounded by goblins there around. Espadon decides with caution and first launches magic, then Fran goes for everything with the art of the sword, but in the magic attack Espadon killed everyone. The guys were only Big and Chicken stays super sad because I wanted to fight against the Goblin King, but soon Franz gets excited because he saw that he wasn't the boss of the dungeon. They go after the boss, they enter a giant door, then they are attacked by several insects, but he only has a lot of them, but he has a lot of good skills, so the sword like that is already used. Even Telesini to stop them the moment he gets close to Fran, and in the air he attacks him directly on the crystals, and he even jokes that it's a good phase. But 30 minutes have passed and they keep appearing. This was due to the insect leaders who had an invocation of light advanced and continued summoning insects as they died, but when swords discover it ends them all at once with a very angry fire tri-magic, and to give the final blow to the leader of the insects they get a lot of XP and skills including advanced level summoning, and Fran goes to level 17. They grow so fast, dear our girl. And then they notice another door, but in that door he always has a very strong presence, and Espadon decides to use possible buffs on Fran before she enters. There at that door was the resistance off magic, boost in attacks, automatic regeneration, and the biggest buff of all, the motivation buff. He says that if she comes back in one piece he will talk about the best dish she has ever eaten in her life, and the little girl is already very excited. And they are in there at the last gate. There they find the demons, a jackpot. The monster's ranking is B, is on the highest they have found so far, with the power to destroy nations according to Sword Sam, and with skills that they have never seen, including one called Skill Taker or Skill Remover only. Then we discovered that the dungeon master was a goblin, their weakling bro, seriously, and even then he tries to give order to the monster, and the monster simply ignores him with his skill and cancels the control that you usually have by summoning a monster on top of the goblin. Shut up, or else he'll go to base and pull out his big sword and start a very angry X1 with Fran and Espadon. Really a formidable enemy to attack and take away. His sword goes up, but she let her guard down and he invokes his sword back, sends her away, and that was the reality of her sword. Like a teleport is linked back to the wielder, but Fran is fine until the demolition uses a black magic skill to go behind her and I appear in her back. He literally cuts her arms off, bro, damn. At that time it hit me really desperately, but the sword quickly uses it until she teaches them to fend off the monster, and there I had a wall of fire. Whilst this quickly regenerates Fran, who is said to have been careless, is that she will be more careful, but Espadon says that it wasn't because of carelessness, that the guy is really angry. While Fran defends himself from his attacks, Espadon saying reasons how the hell he was doing that until he understands that it is a domain of shadows and instructs Fran to go in the air like that there would be no shadow, and they manage to hit a supersonic wave on him, but he retaliates with the brutal attack of black magic, and Sword San says that it won't be possible for them to use the teleportation stone there and get out of there. While it's more for the stubborn, she says he wants to win, and goes up to the monster and will taste Sword Sam's famous best dish, and the monster even praises her spirit but says that there is no damage and asks her to put more strength in. He recognizes her as someone powerful and says that she even has the ability to speed and sword stronger than him, so he will simply remove those abilities from her, and he says that's what he did and all that's left for her now is death. The big demon then goes after Fran, but she reacts by hurting him. He tries to steal the skill again but fails, and Espada-san understands that his skills are only shared with Fran and he does not have the power to steal them. So the dungeon master summons goblins to help the big demon, but he gets offended and destroys all the goblins and tells the dungeon master to stay out of his battle and threatens him. The big demon then invokes a brutal skill that hits Fran and Espada-san. Meanwhile, outside, the adventurers are trying to break into the dungeon boss's door but are unsuccessful. Fran, who was on the ground, gets up and Espada-san tells them to retreat, but she asks Espada-san to lend her power so she can finish him right there and protect the guild and everyone. Espada-san then reflects on her evolving more and more and is proud of her and tells her that they are not going anywhere, all while Fran dodges several blows that the big demon throws at her. Fran manages to dodge with a lot of effort, but the big demon doesn't let up and increasingly increases the power of his attacks. Meanwhile, Espada-san thinks of a way to help Fran. Fran is knocked down, and in the meantime the big demon seems to concentrate a large amount of mana, but the big demon is a fool as he is only launching several random attacks, even destroying part of the dungeon, wanting to take Fran with him. Then Sword San notices that the big demon avoids the area where the dungeon master is and sees an opening, sending Fran to quickly attack the dungeon master. The frightened big demon quickly jumps in front of the dungeon master, protecting him and receiving the attacks. They then remember the commander saying that upon defeating the dungeon master all the monsters summoned will perish, so they release several seals of fire magic onto them, and the big demon quickly defends them all with his dark energy barrier. Espada-san knows she won't defeat him like that, so he agrees with Fran to concentrate everything on a single brutal attack, and she accepts this big bet with him. As soon as they stop casting magic, the big demon attacks, but Fran easily dodges and is already in the air. Take advantage of the big demon's mana recharge time to launch Espada-san with everything in the direction of the dungeon master, all while Fran attacks the big demon with several magic seals. But the big demon quickly attacks Sword San with magic while defending himself from the Sword San's attacks. But Espada-san dodges and goes towards the big demon. He was the real target. Espada-san wants the big demon's crystal. The big demon stops the sword with a lot of effort, but Sword San doesn't give up and already activates his wind magic to start piercing the big demon. Demonioso is surprised that the sword speaks, and Sword San asks how he dares to hurt his brother, and he concentrates his full mana to pierce the big demon, piercing it ferociously, leaving Fran euphoric and the big demon surprised as he dissolves in midair. But Sword San has used up all his mana and starts to break. Fran runs and bursts into tears, crying while hugging Espada-san, but he absorbs the big demon's crystal and tells Fran that he is fine and will recover now that he has absorbed the big demon's mana. While Fran is thrilled that Sword San is okay, the dungeon master is sneakily summoning another demon, but Fran grabs the big demon's sword and cuts the weapon and parts of the dungeon master. He brags that as long as he has the bracelet he will be able to revive as many times as necessary, and Fran cuts his hand saying that this solves the problem, taking revenge again. Espada-san is no fool and already collects the item. Then the dungeon core explodes and the dungeon master was executed with just that cut of his hand. Actually, the dungeon is cleared, everyone arrives, and Espada-san also keeps the big demon's sword. Everyone is super surprised by Fran, who revealed that he defeated the dungeon master. One of the adventurers evaluates the demon on the ground and sees that it was a B rank, surprising everyone. The commander tells her that he is relieved that she is okay. He was very worried, and now that she is okay he will remind her of the rules of adventurers, thus scolding her until the brightness in her eyes faded, according to Sword San's words. Espada-san reveals that Fran is now level 25 and that she has evolved a lot, as at the beginning of the dungeon she was level 12. He says that many of her skills have evolved too, and that she is on the same level as the commander now, and he is also much stronger now. Self-evolution went to level 8 and its stats went up, and he happily asks what skills she wants to improve now, but she doesn't respond, and when he watches she is still completely traumatized from the scolding she received from the commander. But Espada-san quickly brings the sparkle to her eyes when he reminds her of the curry he promised to make for her. She's already all excited and jumping, and the commander even looks at her without understanding, but Espada-san had already disguised himself back. So she masters sword art and sword technique, and Sword San agrees. After all, they were very important in his confrontation with the big demon. Both were maxed out to level 10, releasing the master sword art and the master sword technique by 1 point for each. Level 1 elemental sword was also acquired. Fran is already excited and imagines using the element of fire on her sword, and they have already put together a strategy on how they are going to use the skill taker they acquired from the big demon. They then max the skill taker to level 10, now with a 100% chance of stealing stealing the target skill can only be used once on each target and the ability can only be used again after 432 hours. Both are already surprised and Espada-san reinforces that it is not to be used on allies when Fran played with stealing the commanders. Now in the room with the guild master, he thanks her and apologizes for not knowing that there was a B-rank monster, reprimands Fran for going alone but lets it go because there would have been many casualties if she hadn't done that, and thanks her for the body of the guild Demonioso that will be top quality material for the guild. But he asks where the demon crystal is. After all, it is an item that many countries would be after, but Fran says it was destroyed in the battle and the leader decides to let it go. But someone breaks into the room and interrupts, a snobbish and ugly noble knight that hurts, who says that she is lying and won't be able to hide anything from him, and they are left wondering who the hell that guy was. He introduces himself as the vice captain of the guild with his strange appearance there. Then they remember that Nell had talked about a noble vice captain who refused to send knights to the dungeon, and they already repudiate him. And he continues saying that he has an ability that reveals lies, so Espadacen will analyze him, and the guy is the biggest weakling and his only ability is this, but in reality it works more to make his lie more true than others. So Espadacen understands that he goes out and accuses and condemns others as he pleases. So he asks to arrest Fran, and the leader refuses and warns that she has already defeated a B-rank demon and that the vice captain will not be able to deal with her, and the idiot there is already trembling at the base. So decide that in fact keep the loot from the dungeon, and the guild leader asks if he's getting high on the sausage and says it won't happen. That the crystal would belong to Fran. After all, she conquered the dungeon alone and the knights didn't help with any misfortune in the dungeon, so they won't receive anything. So the nobleman continues talking nonsense and the guild leader puts him in his place, and Espadacen notices that there is a power struggle within the guild. So Fran decides to give the dungeon master's horns so they can both share and stop fighting, and the idiot there slaps his hand, throwing the horns away and asking if the guild leader didn't teach her good manners. Heartbroken, Fran goes to get her items and is already upset with the idiot there, and she was going to execute him, but Espadacen tells her that it's better not to cause confusion, so she decides to use the ability taker on him, since he is a despicable being, and now they have the essence of falsehood level 5, and it also came with a level 4 cut label with a 100% success rate. Then Fran says he's 100 years old and asks if he can tell if it's true, and the idiot gets all clumsy without even knowing what to do and runs away in a shameful way, and even farts in front of Nell, and here I laughed so hard. Then Nell enters and the leader explains that he is repulsive and got his position with money, and explains that nobles hire knights and stay there doing nothing, just draining experience to level up, and for her to be careful now because he will certainly hold a grudge against her. After the good news that Fran will skip the E rank and go straight to D in the guild, a huge evolution, he reveals that he wanted her to go straight to C, but the guild's top brass thought it would be too big a jump, so they only responded to the D, and she says not to forget to collect the reward that they left for her, also making her very excited, and she thanks you with her new etiquette skills, surprising everyone. And already in the guild hall she is congratulated by the other adventurers and receives a lot of money as a reward from Nell, and everyone starts to exchange ideas with her and thank her for saving them in the dungeon and how incredible she is, and Espadacen tells her to help them there since she received the reward, and she does the trick of paying the bill to everyone that night, making everyone vibrate. Espadacen reflects on if she had backed away, maybe that city wouldn't be doing well and how amazing it is, and she talks about the curry in her sleep, and he confirms that there will be curry as he covers her. The idiot from before is bewildered without even knowing who is thrown into an alley. Espadacen then has a dream about goddesses telling him something, but Fran wakes him up, and Espadacen thinks it's strange that he dreams of you. After all, he doesn't even need to sleep because he's a sword. But then they start the curry, which he will make in large quantities and store with magic, so he will always have fresh food whenever Fran wants. Then they use their cooking skills so that they can both separate the meat, fry onions, and make all the ingredients, but clearly using magic, making everything more incredible. They then use different combinations and finally the burger is ready. And Espadacen makes that crazy sauce which is already making me hungry here, and finally the meat part is ready. And now let's go to the curry. Espadacen quickly cuts the vegetables and puts them to saute while he adds the seasonings and prepares the rice, and finally the curry is ready, leaving Fran super happy. He prepared 3 types of curry with different spices and meats. Fran is happier than the Shokuchiki no Soma participants, and Espadacen says he will have a lot for her, making her even more excited. While waiting for the armor, they carried out several missions such as collecting fruit, delivering letters to nobles, and subduing crystals. And everything Fran thought to eat, he said he served in curry. Now Fran lives only for curry. So Espadacen now takes the opportunity for her to try the second type of curry, which is spicier, and again she loved it. Finally, the third softest type that is very pleasant for her, and she also loved it. And she couldn't decide which one is best when Espadacen asked, saying that all. Upon returning home, she discovers that the stupid vice from before didn't behave well in front of royalty, probably due to losing his etiquette and lying skills, and was reprimanded by his father and is now after Fran, and the guard who is her friend tells her to be careful. When they return home, they realize that they are being followed and decide to go to a place where they can battle and deal with their opponents. One of them reveals himself and is the stupid vice, and he's just saying that she cursed him. She tells him that she doesn't know him, and thanks to her ability he believes her, but he comes to his senses and offends her race and then summons a mercenary who starts to threaten her, and Fran seems to know him and is already scared. Fran reveals that blue cats are enemies of black cats, which is her breed, and the scene changes to a new heroine who is entering the city. Fran reveals while preparing for battle that a long time ago the blue cats tricked the black cats, causing them to be reduced to the lowest level, and since then they have taken advantage of this and have sold her race to slave traffickers. Fran, despite being powerful now, she still trembles with fear when she remembers her past, and the mercenary still boasts. Then he strikes a blow and even says that her race's only use is to be hunted by his race, but Espadacen calls Fran and she reacts by blocking him. Fran, still shaken, says that while she was traveling with her parents, several times she thought she was going to die while being hunted by these damned people, and Fran received a blow and flew away. The mercenary goes to Fran and says that one of her race tried to resist and he destroyed her daughter's limbs in front of her and then did the same to her, and that he can do the same to Fran. He pulls Fran by her hair and puts her almost on her feet, and as he steps on her head he says more of the atrocities he did to her race. Espadacen then reminds her that she is strong now and that she defeated a B rank demon and that she won't lose to people like this asshole AE. Then she stands up and reacts. The mercenary is surprised but continues with an air of superiority. Fran asks how many he executed of her race and he says he stopped counting after 10, again bragging. So Fran says it can end now with him without remorse. So first you steal his sword and store it. After cutting off his hand, he retorts, but Fran quickly attacks his leg, making him fall to the ground. Now the other foot, finally the arm. And then Espadacen says she will deliver the final blow, but Fran says that she has to go through this, that she wants to change the scenario of her race and that a bastard like him cannot live as he will harm others, so she has to do this, and Espadacen then tells him to allow him to help, and Fran delivers the final blow, now to the head. So the idiot vice is there scared on the ground, and the guild leader communicates with Fran before she finishes off the noble there via a water spirit. Fran says that the spirit looks like a slime and the leader is all offended, saying that he just superior spirits have human form and it makes no sense to invoke them unless in situations of war and such. The guy defends the lesser spirit's tooth and nail. So back to the subject, the idiot vice was under house arrest, but he escaped with a large amount of money and his father put a reward on him, and now he will pay for his crimes for the rest of his life in a dungeon, and so they closed the subject. Fran received a reward for capturing him, and the leader asks to hush up the case and leave it between them so she doesn't get involved with the nobles, which would be another problem. Then Fran runs headlong into some airbags and falls to the ground, but in reality it was an elf, the adventurer we saw before, and she's a pain in the ass too. She hugs Fran calling her daughter. Fran tries to push her away and she says that wasn't the reaction she expected and says she can call her mother, and Fran fights again and tries to move away but she's too strong. And then the guild leader stops her and he introduces her. Her name is Amanda and she is a rank, surprising both of them. Espadacen then analyzes her stats and she is monstrously powerful and half-elf. Then she greets Fran and says that she has been the news in the guild hall. Then she starts to report about the mission that she doesn't know about, but that it was because of Espadacen who defeated all the bosses in the area she was investigating. Fran was leaving and said goodbye, and the half-elf apologized and Fran said she was fine. After that she starts to persecute Fran, being everywhere Fran was, be it on missions, in the library, on walks, and even in the window of her house. This is already becoming a police case. After setting her on fire when she invades her bathtub, Fran quickly leaves the house and the crazy woman continues to follow her. Fran then goes to complain to Nell, and Nell says that despite being strange, she is not a bad person and that she has run an orphanage since she was very young and that she probably really liked her, that she really sympathizes with children. It's still weird as hell, but let's keep going. And she helps unfortunate children and was given the title of guardian of children by the gods. But the woman keeps looking at Fran strangely, making everything worse. But Nell says she's a good person. Then she comes up behind Nell, scaring her, and Nell scolds her. Then she turns to Fran and tells her that when she has resolved her feelings she can call her mother, and Fran refuses again. Then Nell tells him that the guild leader is waiting for Fran and she comes in, scaring him. It shows several rank monster crystals. He comes up and says they're from when he was an adventurer, and Fran asks if he'll give her them, and he says he'll give her 2 if she accepts the request to investigate a spider dungeon. And she asks for 10, he then offers 3 and she asks for 8, he offers 4 and she coldly says 6 and he says that's the maximum number and that he can't let her take more than that. Then she turns her back and says goodbye, and he quickly says he will give her 5 and she confirms 5 then, and he agrees. So she asks for the 5 in advance, and Espadacen, who was excited about the crystals, says she is a great negotiator. Then she asks him why he wants her to investigate so much, and he reveals that many are unhappy with her promotion, saying that she bought the position or that the guild leader has a weakness for little girls. So her accepting this D-rank mission will put an end to these rumors. Then the crazy half-elf appears again, and by coincidence she heard the whole conversation, Hohan knowledge. And he says he'll go along. The guild leader, unable to speak, doesn't end up accepting. Then we see Fran and Espadacen at home eating curry and debating about this spider dungeon mission. So finally Espada-san absorbs the crystals, and now he has gained 45 points to distribute with his self-evolution. He gained several water skills and many different skills that I can't even mention, but one caught his attention, the invocation of a level 6 familiar, which they intend to use in the dungeon. Then the scene changes to Fran battling the half-elf, and it seems like she's having trouble, but it appears to be training before the dungeon. Now the next day, before that action takes place, Fran arrives at the marked point and finds several knights, and the half-elf already runs to hug her. Then a blonde knight introduces himself with two others and says that he will be the leader of the dungeon expedition and that he is a C-level knight, and the expedition will serve as a promotion for E-rank adventurers to go to D-rank. Then the adventurers start to introduce themselves. There is a delinquent there who faces Fran and is the leader of his team. There is an elf who is the same level as the guild master. There are other crazy people there who appeared briefly. Then Amanda introduces herself, and everyone is already trembling at the base. And everyone is already overcome with envy for Amanda, who is there for Fran, especially the delinquent, who is more envious than the gossipy old neighbors on the block. Finally, Fran introduces herself, and the envious delinquent sees her and accuses her of having flattered the guild leader. If envy killed this guy here, she would have been underground for a long time. So the delinquent says that he doesn't understand the A-rank adventurer and the guild leader who likes little girls, and when he least expects it, the half-elf is behind him and gets right in the face and immediately intimidates him by asking if he wants to repeat the same thing again. That's said. And then she almost erases the guy, which starts to apologize, and he then retorts about not recognizing Fran and says that brats like her should go back to their mother. And Fran says that her mother is dead, thus shutting up the delinquent who was speechless. The blonde knight then gives instructions on the dungeon and what they should do inside, and that Amanda will not interfere as this would not end the mission in seconds. Espadacen says he heard about this dungeon that has no master and that feeds on monsters and has valuable and profitable resources, and that other countries are keeping an eye on it, so the guild leader periodically sends adventurers to collect the items from it. The delinquent tries to hit Fran, but he ends up falling in the meantime, and once again he ends up getting beaten up by Amanda in the process. And finally, they camp and take turns taking care of the camp. So, on Fran's shift, the delinquent approaches. If I were her, I would have already cut off his arm just so he would be smarter and stop bothering me. Again, he accuses her of having ascended because of connections and calls her to battle. Fran ignores it at first, but he offended Espadacen and she was very upset, and accepts the duel, so they prepare while everyone watches. And Espadacen says to mount wind and earth magic as they are still on duty, and Fran activates radar magic, impressing everyone as he used two magic seals at the same time. The envious person is confused but ignores it, as he didn't understand the size of the rarity she used, and goes up confidently. At first Fran only used blocks with her sword, but soon after, he used his speed to immobilize his spear and then threw a very good flying shot right at the unfortunate man's neck. Then Fran tells everyone to admire the power of her sword, but Espadacen says she didn't use a sword, so then very comically she hits him slowly with the blunt part of the sword several times, reciting wireless attack, reciting wireless attack, reciting a wireless attack, but Espadacen says that in reality she is hitting with the wire, and while Amanda smiles, the envious man is dragged away by his friends. So Amanda calls Fran for a practical battle, and Frank agrees as long as if she wins, Amanda will stop bothering her. And Amanda agrees as long as if she wins, Fran will call her mommy. And Fran says that then she won't be able to lose at all, and Espadacen even warns her that she's digging her own grave, after all she's Ranka. The guild leaders are surprised, and Fran tells Espadacen not to help her as she will fight using her own strength. The battle begins and Amanda pulls out her whip, which ends up hurting Fran, but she dodges the following attacks. Amanda attacks fiercely without having the slightest pity for Fran. Fran sees an opening and tries to attack Amanda, but she takes the opportunity to hit her with the handle of the whip, which Fran blocks. In fact, she is an A rank. Then she says she will become more serious by imbuing the whip with mana, and now it's as if the whip has life. Fran narrowly escapes the whip several times, and Amanda is impressed, saying that it's been a long time since someone dodged it, and in one of these she ends up hitting Fran with stones that her whip had attacked close to Fran. Needless to say, the expedition leaders are impressed. Fran then activates wind magic to increase her speed, uses telekinesis magic also leaving it activated, and while going at Amanda recites a fire incantation. Amanda is having a lot of fun in this battle, but says she will finish the battle and grazes Fran right in the stomach, but Fran doesn't back down. She uses more wind magic and goes after Amanda while the whip doesn't come back, but Amanda uses a barrier to stop the whip. But Fran, while going through the air with the block, launches the fire magic that she had saved before using telekinesis to recite it, thus finally hitting Amanda, who is surprised before receiving the attack. The ground where Amanda was was standing is as if it had been turned into lava. The leaders run to help Amanda and the envious person can't believe it. Fran is on the floor full of wounds watching if she really won, but Amanda comes out of the flames congratulating Fran and that she didn't expect so much from her. Amanda was unharmed thanks to her spirit affection skill. Fran was still going up but fell to the ground and Amanda ran to heal her and apologized for having overreacted. Espadacen analyzes and the skill activates automatically and nullifies any attack with a waiting time of 24 hours to be reactivated. Espadacen then reflects on everything that Fran did in this battle and that she managed to show her value to everyone and Amanda continues to care for her worriedly. Fran dreams about her mother but soon wakes up. Amanda talks to her and Fran says she is very strong but Amanda tells her to rest after all, she is just a child and mentally exhausted. Then Amanda reminds her of her promise. Then Fran tries to speak but she can't and Amanda hugs her and says that she went too far in her provocation and knows that Fran's mother still resides in her heart and says that she knows it will take time for Fran to trust her but that she will always be there for Fran and that you can trust her. Espadacen used the skill on Amanda and sees that she is telling the truth. Fran then finds a little comfort in Amanda's lap and Espadacen even confesses that she is jealous. The next day, Fran apologizes for the fire in the camp but the knight says he's fine and that they're responsible too. Fran notices his injuries and he reveals that everyone was encouraged by Fran and everyone challenged Amanda but no one managed to last as long as her. The knight then uses his key to break the dungeon seal, which only high-ranking members of the guild have this key to prevent invaders from entering. And they start the next dungeon. A little in the distance we see a wizard with a reddish liquid and the eyes of a demon but Fran and the adventurers enter the cave. On the first floor of the spider's nest, groups are in charge of exploration. While the groups explored, Amanda told that when she was young, many groups ventured into that dungeon but many died leaving several orphans and that this encouraged her to open an orphanage and take care of the children. She had no money but received help from many people. But they are interrupted by an attack from the towers on the first floor and the delinquents group goes up with the weakest ones immobilizing them and him giving the final blow, all excited with his spear. The elves group also continues to invest but with greater difficulty but one helps the other and ends well. Meanwhile, one of the members takes the opportunity to steal the monster's webs. There are mercenaries everywhere. And the leader of the expedition already tells Fran to be careful with fire, implying that she was a flame maniac and that they would burn all the spiders and items. On the second floor, there are now several insects in addition to spiders. Meanwhile, Amanda explains to Fran that she was curious about the different styles of combat techniques and how they induce mana to perform them. But again they are interrupted by a new monster attacking the adventurers and with a beautiful example the delinquent splits the giant insect in two and Amanda completes that this was a combat technique. Amanda adds that embedding mana in weapons also falls into this category. Now on the third floor it is a more closed place and prone to traps. That the delinquents group just got screwed and there was also a very intelligent girl who pressed the arrow thinking it was to deactivate traps, thus ending up activating everyone in the room. Just geniuses in this group. Amanda uses the example of a knight to demonstrate that there are skills, which would be gifts that after training a lot you can obtain them, like the knight who identified all the traps and deactivated them. And finally magic, which is basically you controlling your inner mana and reproducing it outside. Explains the 4 standard types of elements and their advanced versions. Amanda explains to achieve the magic of water, you have to adapt to different styles and basically live with water and even dream about it, becoming one with the water. The land one you have to bury yourself in and even consume sand. Everyone is amazed. Amanda, the windy one, says it's very boring. She has to bathe in the wind and let herself be enveloped by the breeze, completely naked, leaving everyone surprised imagining the scene. Then near the 4th floor, several spiders take over the entrance and the elves team attacks them. Yes, they stole the spiders' cell phones. Amanda adds that complex magic exists and uses the example of the elf who uses wood magic, which is the combination of the elements of earth and water. Water and wind create ice, water and fire create life. This one I found bizarre. Wind and fire make thunder. Wind and earth make dust. Earth and fire create lava. And Fran already passes the fishmonger into a spider. Amanda says that if Fran continues to improve her magic, she will soon be able to use thunder. Amanda says that it's rare for someone to be able to use 2 elements and that she's never managed to master fire, and Fran and Espadacen are like, is it rare? Damn, because they already dominate the 4. Finally, they take a break on the 4th floor to eat and rest and Fran shares her sacred curry with Amanda, surprising Espadacen. Amanda then reveals that magic exists off light and darkness and which are normally dominated by monsters and even rarer among people, and Espadacen already says not to let anyone discover that they already dominate the 4 in dark magic. Light comes from the magic of purification and illusion, darkness from poison, necromancy and others of this type. Fran asks if anyone who has dark magic is evil and Amanda says that spells are just spells, they don't reveal the character of the user despite meeting a necromancer with a dubious style and he reminds him a lot of the boy we saw before they entered the dungeon. Fran fries his neurons with so much information and Amanda reveals that monsters have even more unique abilities as they master magic better than humans since they use it for everything, and Espadacen now understands why why he has so many unique abilities, since his powers came of monsters. The knight already says that from now on everything will be more difficult and has reports of adventurers who were simply teleported to walls and says more about the dangers and to be careful. Meanwhile Fran is trying to convince Espadacen to teach her thunder magic and he says no because she doesn't know anything about it so far and it would be very suspicious, but he can't resist her cuteness and says he will teach her but she won't. You can use it now. And he maximizes points in wind magic, thus gaining storm magic level 1. And now as the fire and wind magic reached level 10, they gained the thunder magic level 1. And Espadacen has already asked her to share and says that as soon as they leave she can. But it was too late, she already activated the magic to see what it was like, but luckily no one saw it. Finally, they advanced through the dungeon, dodging more traps and facing more opponents on the 5th floor. Now on the 6th floor things get even more dangerous. The spiders are now poisonous, so any scratch and it could be the end of you. Fran heals a member that was going to perish and reveals that they are evolved forms of spiders, thus making the knight retreat as he is out of the mission and too high a level for them. Fran and Amanda open the way for them to retreat to the 5th floor, but 2 members of the delinquent team were hit by the confusion toxin and are having hallucinations and end up going to a trap zone and taking Fran down with them. Then a teleportation spell appears activated and Espadacen tells Fran to hold on to him, but she and the others are transported without their weapons. Amanda then takes the Espadacen which she thinks is just a sword and goes looking for them everywhere. Then Fran and the others wake up and they are in the final phase of the dungeon together with the Spider Empress. Without Espadacen, Fran cannot use magic or skills. The Empress uses traps to attack defenseless adventurers and the French. Meanwhile the groups are divided into 3 and they go in search of some clue. Amanda even tries to use her skills to detect something but nothing. The sword is the same thing and the other groups continue without a signal and Fran and the adventurers are taking a firm beating. Espadacen uses parallel thinking to see what he could do and finds the summoning ability he hasn't used yet, and asks the system which wolf, as he can only summon wolves, would help, and she says that the Oni's wolf and he summons it now without worrying about Amanda seeing him, just worried about France. And finally a gigantic wolf appears, imbued with dark magic. However, due to the excess mana that Espadacen used, he went into berserker mode and is crazy attacking everything. Amanda was even going to kill him, but Espadacen gets in touch via telepathy and says that he is Fran's companion and to trust him despite not revealing his identity. She agrees to trust. The system then explains that the wolf believes that its master is the tale of its suffering because the excess mana is overloading it and causing pain. Amanda then tells the voice of telepathy that by naming the monster, bonds are created, and this is an old technique, and the system confirms what Amanda said, saying that there is a 93% chance of it working. Espadacen then names it Yusashim Dark Wolf, and then an evolution takes place, using the surplus mana to evolve the wolf crystal. And Yurushi becomes even bigger and has a fierce appearance. Amanda welcomes Espadacen to have a life, and Espadacen tells the wolf that he is much tamer now to look for Fran. Fran, in the meantime, is there trying to stay alive, and the wolf follows her scent and even uses the shadow walking ability that passes through objects just like the big demon did. Fran was accepting her fate, saying that she was the same before meeting Espadacen, but she remembers Espadacen's words and finally stands up. Even poison, she remains determined to evolve like a black cat and will not be able to let herself surrender once she has received all help and trust in your master. Yurushi uses dark magic to see traps and jumps into the air to avoid everything. Yurushi finds the place and Amanda uses a very powerful skill to open the way, but it's infested with webs and Espadacen says he'll fix it quickly. Fran remains determined. Even though she can't defeat the Spider Empress, she goes after her. In the meantime, Espadacen channels all his mana into the fire element and into his attack and goes with everything, and at the moment Fran was going to be hit, he arrives hitting the Empress, which is now covered in flames. Espadacen soon runs into Fran and she tells him to focus on the Empress, but she has already run away, so Espadacen heals Fran and she hugs him even though he is still at a high temperature due to elemental magic. She thanks him and he says he is very proud and that she is a great learner and that she did very well on her own, and she is very happy and continues to hug him even in the high temperature. Amanda then cuts the atmosphere by hugging Fran, and finally Espadacen introduces Yurashi to Fran and says that he is a family member, as if he were a little brother to her, and that he made a lot of effort to find her. She thanks him and he and Yurashi stay all cute. Amanda then asks who Espadacen is now that the dust has settled, leaving the atmosphere hostile, but at the same time when she sees Fran, she backtracks saying that she was very nosy and that she couldn't expect her to trust her like that, and that it's wrong to interfere in our affairs. Secrets from other adventurers. Fran then says she wants to share her secret with Amanda, and Espadacen consents. After all, she helped a lot so far, and Fran tells Amanda. Soon after that, Amanda is very surprised by everything and praises Espadacen and introduces herself, and they become friends, and she is even happier that Fran trusted her. Then they remember the other adventurers who were already unconscious and heal them, and they are enchanted by their savior who protected them at all times. Amanda and Yurashi carry them who couldn't walk. Upon arriving at the meeting place of the other groups, no one returned yet. The Empress is healing, and out of nowhere an owl appears that appears to dominate the element amount of light. Next we see Fran waking up with her mother talking to her, and back to the adventurers. They are surrounded by spiders, but they fight fiercely against them. All except the instructor knights and the delinquent were imprisoned. And when a trap was activated and was going to decimate everyone, Fran arrived just in time with Amanda and the others and saved everyone. Those trapped in the web are quickly released by Urashi, who distributes several dark magic attacks on the webs. Then Fran makes a spider barbecue with her fire magic. Amanda already sends a tornado at the spiders too, and the owl is a guardian spirit that the elf sent to seek help. Fran then encounters the Empress, who was watching her. She hides in a cocoon while the elf uses his owl spirit to give a buff, increasing everyone's life statistics. The knights take care of the other spiders, and Fran focuses completely on the Empress. But she covers herself with smaller spiders, making it difficult for Fran and the Empress to escape. Then Espadacin authorizes Fran to use thunder magic, and together with her he destroys all the spiders. And he even electrocutes the Empress and impresses Amanda, but the Empress retaliates using webs to throw Fran into the air. Amanda despairs and her memories are revealed. That there was a boy and a girl of Fran's race, that she didn't teach them to fight because she wanted them to live and that could shorten their lives, but that ended up causing their deaths. And Amanda says there's no way she's going to let Fran perish either. And Amanda summons an advanced level wind magic and obliterates the existence of the Spider Empress in a matter of seconds. Everyone is impressed. Amanda runs to hug Fran, but Fran is upset because she stopped Fran from taking revenge, and Espadacin says that she could have left the crystal at least, and Amanda stays there understanding that she ruined the vibe. The knights find a passage to the final level with the dungeon core and go while Amanda whines so Fran doesn't get upset with her. So in the nucleus they find several crystals and everyone is amazed, and the expedition leader says that any leak of information will have consequences and for them not to even try to put anything in their pockets, and Espadacin is dying to absorb all the crystals. The delinquent goes to thank Fran and she is happy and casts fire magic leaving him bald, and she says that the spider would finish him off if it weren't for her, but he's pissed off because he's bald. Fran then asks Amanda, now at a fire, if she got someone from her race that evolved, but Amanda says no, but that she believes in her potential to achieve this, but that she shouldn't try too hard, and Espadacin sees that Amanda genuinely cares with Fran. Finally they come back and give the Reporto the clan leader, along with Urashi in his reduced form, and we discover that Urashi is a level C monster. The clan leader then congratulates her on her achievements and says that this should be enough to prove her worth to the others and give her permission to go to the dungeon she wanted. Fran thanks him and he says it will be lonely when she leaves for this new dungeon. So at the request of the guild master, Fran will do another class classification. And now she has evolved into a sword mage. And finally, they're going to get Fran's armor. All the items were named, enhancing their attributes even further. And the blacksmith says that the items have the blessing of the gods of beasts and insects. Then Espadacin says that the clothes are showing too much and leave her vulnerable, and the blacksmith explains that some prefer versatility to move around better and that the clothes have a barrier that prevents them from taking damage. And thanks to Fran's race, this armor will activate the ability to block instant deaths that only black cats can activate. The blacksmith says he will also move to Olmet, which is the dungeon Fran is going to, but Espadacin is taking the sea route and dwarves only get along in the mountains, so he meets them there. Meanwhile, Amanda goes to visit the owner of the utensils store and greets him like an old friend. They talk about Fran, and the store owner says that she remembers those two by mentioning the black cats that Amanda took care of at the orphanage, and Amanda talks about her regret of never being able to track any of them and not having taught them to fight. Everyone will then say goodbye to Fran before she leaves on her new journey. Nell tearfully says goodbye, and the commander, also emotional, changes to a hostile stance and reminds her that being an adventurer is a dangerous task. We then see everyone else who followed the journey from the beginning saying goodbye to Fran, even the delinquent. Fran then says goodbye to Amanda and Amanda lets some tears escape. Amanda says that she leaves Fran in the care of Espadacin and says that she is jealous of him despite being happy, and Fran says goodbye. Then Espadacin says that Fran never considered calling mother Amanda, and Fran says that her mother and Amanda are different, but she turned around and called her Amanda, which would be the combination of Amanda and mother, and that warmed Amanda's heart because the other little girl called her that too, saying that she was everyone's breast. Then Amanda bursts into tears as she remembers that the two older ones came back and said that they decided to combine their names and that they would call their baby Fran, and asked for her blessing. And their names are revealed to us, Flamia and Kitten, and we find out why Amanda cared so much about Fran, and she tells them that their child is living wonderfully, then says goodbye to Fran while Urashi takes her through the heavens. And the elf is the guild leader's nephew and was on a secret mission, and that adventurer we saw before with a reddish liquid was arrested and confessed to using evolution potions on spiders, confessing that it was at the behest of All Sand, an important minister. The leader also asks what the owl spirit thought of Fran, and he reveals that he doesn't feel any bad intentions coming from her, and the leader decides to trust Fran and that she is just exceptional and learns very quickly. Espadacin asks what awaits them, and Fran says that as long as he has Espadacin and Urashi, they can handle anything. Then we see Fran floating in the Espadacin heading towards a floating island, but are interrupted by a skull enemy in the air. An explosion occurs and they end up in a little house with the necromancer that Amanda mentioned before. He introduces himself as Jean I don't know what and who is a necromancer behind the highest black magic, and Fran and Espadacen wonders where the hell they ended up. And I would like to thank you more once to everyone who liked, subscribed, and commented here. We have completed another series thanks to your support. What will be the next series? Comment below #JustLet's. Semi is staying here, we're together bando.